Hi, this is Dan Heisman for Chess FM, and this is the Improve Your Chess series for ICC members. In today's video, we're going to go over an amateur game played at a 60-0 rate. The players played pretty quickly. They could have played this game pretty much at a 30-0, which is not good. They are not taking their time. And let's do a little bit different than we normally do. Normally we go over the game in some detail, and then we recapitulate in fast motion instant replay, maybe some of the main themes that you can learn from the game. But today we're going to reverse that order, and let's do the game fairly quickly first and look at the reasonableness of the moves, and then we'll examine them in some detail and see how reasonable they really were. All right, so let's do the game fairly quickly. White plays e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, Italian game, bishop c5, Gioco piano, c3, main line of the Gioco piano, knight f6, and now the old main line, of course, is d4 here, but that's been shown for 150 years almost that it doesn't lead to much. So White's playing it the modern way, which is half the way to a Roy Lopez, which is by playing d3, slow playing the center. Black breaks then with d5. White takes the break. Black takes back. White castles. Black castles. White hits the black queen. Black blocks the attack. White develops the knight. Black pins the knight. Bishop g4. White hits the knight on f6, threatening to open up the king side and threatening the bishop on c5. Black breaks that pin. White develops the rook. Black takes the knight on e4, hitting the bishop on g5. The bishop on g5 hits the queen. The knight takes on c3, hitting White's queen. White takes the queen. Black takes the queen. White takes the knight. Black takes the knight. White takes back on f3. Black takes on d8. The smoke is cleared. Black has won a pawn. White has 4 isolated pawns. Black has a wonderful square on d4 for the knight, so black should be winning with good play. Rook e4, rook d4, a3, rook doubles, trades, knight comes in. White plays king g2, guarding the f3 pawn. Black hits the bishop, bishop comes back. Black brings his king toward the middle. White goes on the semi-open file. Black guards his pawn. White hits the e-pawn and the b-pawn. The b-pawn's guarded, so black guards the e-pawn. White goes to d5, threatening to go to the 7th. Black stops him with his king. White brings the king up. Black hits the rook. Rook goes back to the semi-open file. Black hits the rook again. Pawn guards the rook. Black hits the pawn guarding the rook. White brings his king up more. Black brings his rook to the a file, which will soon be open. White moves his bishop up. Black takes. White takes. Black hits the weak b pawn. White can't guard it, so he just plays rook back. Black takes the pawn, now going up 2 pawns. White hits the pawn on h7 with the bishop. Black saves the pawn, and White resigns. Okay, well, seems a little reasonable, right? Let's go back and look at the game in more detail now. All right, so the opening, as I said, was kind of a modern Gioco piano. A lot of times when grandmasters want to play d3 and c3, they play the d3 move first, but as far as I know, there's not a big independent significance of doing that. c3, knight f6, d3. All right, now what black should do here is he should castle, or maybe even play d6, although castles is probably more accurate. He plays d5, which looks okay. Both sides are not castled. Usually you don't break till after you castle, but a lot of times you do. And it looks like that move's okay. And of course, the general rule here is that if your opponent breaks with an e or a d pawn, and you can capture that pawn, and he can't capture back with a pawn, then it's almost always correct to take. We're talking